So I'm super excited to be here with you all this afternoon to share with you a little reflection about the protest murals that happened in 2020 as a result of a number of things. Of course, there was the brutal murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, but also a bunch of people started quitting their jobs, and we were just fed up as a community as a whole and ready to see, a real inspired change. And as our young people took to the streets to march and to protest, our artists took to the canvas. And so I think it's really important for us to reflect on this art, to hear from our artists, and to continue this conversation that we've been having through the Asheville Arts Council about modern day art. So I think this is a very important conversation, and I'm glad to be here to facilitate it with some of our area's most prominent artists. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors for today: Dogwood Health Trust, Asheville Area Arts Council, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Association of Asheville and Buncombe County, and Equity Over Everything. We are thrilled to be in this space with our artists today, and I'm going to give them a moment to introduce themselves. We'll start with Jenny.
Hi, thanks for having me. Hello to everybody else. My name is Jenny Pickens. I am a local mixed media artist and also teaching artist. I'm also a board member of Asheville City Schools Foundation.
Joseph.
Oh, I'm Joseph Pearson. I'm an artist activist. I am also a teaching artist, and I am a board member of Black Mountain College.
Jasmine.
Hi, I'm Jasmine. I am a local artist. I'm on the Public Arts and Cultural Commission, and I make art that focuses on representing Black and Brown people in positive ways.
And Dustin.
Hey y'all, I'm Dustin Spagnola. I'm a painter and artist, and I'm learning how to tattoo right now. Yeah, I've lived in Asheville since 2001.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm interested in hearing, what role did you all play in the three main projects, which were the storefront murals that we all saw, the downtown street murals, and then the UNCA street mural. So what role did you play, if any, in any of this art? And we'll just start with Jenny again.
Okay, that's fine. Yes, I was one of the 3 lead artists selected for the street mural in downtown, which is the Black Lives Matter.
Joseph?
Yeah, I was also one of the lead artists selected for that project, the Black Lives Matter mural.
Jasmine?
I painted one of the letters on the Black Lives Matter mural, specifically the section that Joseph was over. And I also participated in painting part of the mural at UNC Asheville.
Wow. Dustin?
I painted a bunch of boarded up storefronts and helped distribute plywood that my friend helped line up from Lowe's for local businesses. And then I helped paint part of the street mural with Joseph.
Why was it important for you all to participate in these events? And what impact do you think that these events may have had on our community? And we'll start with Dustin this time.
Well, I think pretty obviously, like June, the entire first half of the year was pretty strange for everyone. I was definitely in my house almost all of the time, and I thought it was, it was honestly just a very huge moment, I think, for everyone. And you know, obviously knowing there's a pandemic happening, and then also realizing that there's all these things that have to be addressed. And, you know, for me as a painter, I mean, I paint outside a lot. I paint murals and walls, and it just seemed like an obvious way to try to help make things better. I don't think anybody wanted to see any local businesses have broken windows on the one hand. And on the other hand, I think, you know, myself and most other people probably supported the idea of, you know, having protests to bring attention to, you know, these issues about racial injustice, and specifically about George Floyd's murder. And also for me, it was nice to be out of my house and to be talking to my friends and peers painting. And that was specifically painting boarded up windows, and to help beautify local businesses and to keep, you know, downtown feeling like safe and friendly, and not like we're on the edge of violent insurrection, right? I think for a second, everybody really thought things were about to get bad when they didn't, you know. And then likewise, you know, to help with the Black Lives Matter street mural that was sponsored by the Arts Council. I mean, for myself, I personally didn't think that it was like this great, wonderful idea that I was like, I 100% think this is the right move on the one hand. And on the other hand, I also was like, I know that I have the skill set to help make this happen. And I want to support the people, you know, whose voices need to be heard right now, right? And so for me, I mean, I had a lot of conversation, you know, with my peers about that, and honestly, a lot of arguments about it. And I'm really, really glad and thankful that I was invited to participate and that I got to help, because I think it was a very important thing. And, you know, as a traveling muralist, I don't get to see a lot of Black people hanging out together, painting murals together. And literally that is the most Black people that I've seen together making art at once in my life as a muralist who travels and goes to other places. So I thought that was really, really awesome.
That's a huge impact. Jasmine?
For me, the mural was really a part of like community healing. Like the process of making the mural was more important, in my opinion, than the end result. Like that day of, for both the murals, the one at UNC Asheville and the one downtown, I didn't really go downtown a lot because of the pandemic during 2020. So I don't really have a whole lot to say about the boards up on the storefronts. But the process of painting those murals, that was like an aspect of community healing where it definitely mattered. But the process of like everyone coming together for a common goal to relax together, to work on something productive, and to just be in that space and being able to just come together for a common goal. I feel like that was my main takeaway of community healing. And it was another way for people to come together and see each other and support one another. And that was what was really important for me.
Joseph?
I think it was important. Well, first off, I guess since I was a teenager, my art has always been centered around protest to some degree. And because I'm the oldest on this panel, I'm taking you back to the 60s Vietnam civil rights era, when you know what all that was going on there. And having grown up in the segregated South, I saw art as a means of expressing how I felt about some of the stuff that was going on, and that hasn't changed. So when I had opportunity to be a part of this particular mural, it was important on several fronts. One is to work out some of the anger and frustration that I personally was feeling, and the good portion of the country collectively was feeling. And at the same time, it was important that it served as a unifying element to bring the community together. And like Spag was saying, Dustin, I hadn't seen so many, I don't know that there was that many Black artists here in Asheville. So to have all these artists come out and make us aware of them was important. Have community input and involvement was important. And because it kind of brought the community together, that creates an opening, for healing. And well, I guess I know Dustin probably, as he said, had to deal with some dissension from some of the people that you know. But it was important for me to have you on that project, because when I designed that word Black and I wanted Mr. Floyd in it, your work stood out. You were the man. Only you could do what you did to give him the importance and prominence that I felt that he deserved. And of course, Jasmine also worked on that project, that word with us, to help bring all of this together. And I appreciate all of that. And the Arts Council for making us a part of that.
Y'all, I get chills hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing how you all have connected this together. Jenny.
Yeah, to me, being a part of the street mural was a good way to tell a story. Being here from Asheville, there's so many things going on, and instead of us like taking this frustration out and just going all over the place, it was a way to put it down where everybody can walk and see it with no communication. Because there's some people who can't really have a conversation or know what the right things to say at a time like that. But to have that art, it speaks for itself. One important part my son was one of my supporting artists, and I wanted him to be part of that, to share that with me, because he's a Black man, and these are a lot of things that he's dealing with. So for having him be a part of that was like making history as well. So I thought that was important.
Yeah. I mean, you all have made such an impact in our community, and it was a sense of hope when you rode down the street and you saw the street, the murals on the storefronts, and as well as seeing the Black Lives Matter on the street and being part of a larger campaign that happened across the United States. So very proud of our artists and really supporting the work that you all do.
Yeah.
If you have questions for our artists, please feel free to drop them in the chat. But until then, I will selfishly continue asking questions for our artists. So I want to start this question off with Joseph. So Joseph, when I was in undergrad, we learned two types of art. You have the committed art that is committed to protest and telling the story. And then you have traditional art, art for art's sake, art for the beauty of what is. And so I wanted to take a minute of your time and hear from you. Why is protest art so important? And why have you chosen it as a part of even your title? Because you were the only person here today that said, I am an activist and an artist. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Why was it important to me? Well, I have been an activist. Even before I was aware of being an activist, I saw a need to get involved in the community and to get involved through my arts. And being a part of this allowed me to work out some frustrations. It allowed me to we live in a society of 30-second sound bites. You know, we get blasted with some big thing that happens, and then we move on to the next bit of breaking news. What the mural does, not just this mural, and also the BPR mural that I did, it freeze frames a portion of what is going on and allows folks an opportunity to reflect on it, and being on the street. It allows folks to come back to it. They could, hopefully it creates a conversation that leads to folks considering what it is that they can do to help make things better. And because it's on the street, folks don't feel, museums and galleries are intimidated in and of themselves, and especially for the common man. So to having a mural on the street, it's community work. It's for the people. And because it's out there for the people, I think more people tend to feel a connection to it. I personally saw this when I was working in New Orleans. There was an organization who hired artists to do, you know, these old utility boxes, the gray utility boxes, paint those. And we go into various communities in the city and choose an element from that community and represent it on those boxes. And the community appreciated that because, one, it helped to beautify that community, and it helps to unify the community, and folks respected that. It says that we cared about their community. If I answered your question.
You did. Okay. What I want to do is just take a brief moment here. And for those of us who weren't able to get out of the house because of COVID or pre-existing conditions, or just not up for the fight, I want to take a minute and just show you some of these murals and just show you some of the work that these amazing artists were able to do. So as you can see, this is a storefront. And if you did this work, just say, hey, this is my work, and like, take a moment to explain it to us. Oh, this is by Dustin.
That's bad, yeah.
Yeah, I painted the George Floyd on the left with some other people helping out with the other two panels. Looks like it's kind of spread out, widened. But yeah, I mean, literally, like, there was a group of us, like some of my really good friends and peers who are painters, you know, were out with us for that week, really, you know, like my buddy Melt or Ishmael or Gus or Catherine, you know, good friends of mine who are also very, very talented muralists and painters. And we all kind of came together to talk about getting together to go and paint to help, like literally. And other people showed up also who we knew. And we just kind of started to pair up and just take over spots to go ahead and put, like, you know, what to me seemed like the correct messaging of just being like supporting this contemporary like protest movement that's happening about like racial justice, right? Or it's 2022 now. We're still having this conversation. We need to keep having it, obviously. And yeah, I just hung out and painted portraits because that's what I've been focusing on for the last couple of years. You know, so for me, it was kind of meditative, like just doing what I know how to do as my way to help.
As a Black woman, Dustin, like seeing George Floyd painted here with such respect at this time means a lot, right? Because the media will, you know, plaster all types of pictures. I'm still, you know, I'm always shocked when I see a really good picture of Trayvon Martin and almost can't recognize him because of what the media has done to his image. So just seeing this picture here for me as, you know, an experiencer is really important. And I appreciate being able to see that. Thank you. Next piece is by Joseph. Joseph, you want to explain this piece?
Yeah, I got a call from Mr. David Feingold, who was director at BPR at the time. And he kind of gave me an overview of what it was he wanted to do in terms of showing some solidarity in terms of what was going on over what happened to Mr. Floyd. And I had a short window to do this too. I think I had like 2 days or a day and a half. So we had to quickly, he and I, discuss what it was that he wanted to see. He wanted to show that BPR, is supportive of what's going on. So I came up with the idea, one, of showing a group of protesters to represent the community's point of view. And of course, the peace symbol speaks to an effort to bring about peace. And when I got to Mr. Floyd, and I painted his name up there, Mr., which is partly covered by the trees, Mr. Floyd, and I'm emphasizing the Mr. because I wanted to emphasize respect for the man. As Dustin was just saying, no, you were just saying, the news media tend to demonize the man. They brought up whatever his drug problems were. That had nothing to do with the man being publicly murdered. So I wanted to show Mr. Floyd from a position of dignity. That's why I put him in this purple jacket. Well, a jacket to start with. And secondly, a purple jacket because the purple is the color of royalty. I'm not talking about royalty in terms of a political or religious sense, but I'm talking about royalty in terms of our common humanity. And I wanted to show the man from that perspective, as opposed to all the negativism that we were getting from the news.
Yes, beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. And I noticed Mr. Floyd right away. And I'm like, I don't know if I've ever heard of him referred to as Mr. George Floyd. Not in one news outlet, not one, I can't remember ever seeing it phrased that way. Thank you. And then here we saw all over the country these Black Lives Matter street murals, but this was ours and we were really proud to have it. It's beautiful. And Jenny, you worked on this, is that right? You want to talk a little bit about this?
Yes, Joseph, Marie, and I all got together on Zoom calls to talk about the design, what we're going to do. And it was amazing. We all agreed on the colors of red, black, and green, but we didn't talk about exactly what we were going to make each letter stand out. And when we got back together and shared our sketches, amazing how we all connected with the same idea, which was just great. So it just worked perfectly. And just to see that you have an idea, you put it down on a drawing and you get artists to actually put their spin on it and create what your thought was or the meaning of what you had behind each letter. So that was amazing. This picture that Reggie took was amazing as well.
It really is. The piece that I've gotten that, as somebody who it feels like I'm on the outside of the artist community. I know all of you and respect all of your work and engage with you in different ways in my work, but not being a muralist or a painter or, not having that. What I've experienced through this conversation or what I want to really highlight is this community aspect, that your work is deeply involved in each other. Like I keep hearing you, call each other names and my friend, and we got a chance to, connect and heal. And so the community aspect of these protest murals is so important. And I'm glad we're getting to capture that in conversation and then to kind of see it here, right? The hugs and the smiles and the hard work, very powerful. And then of course, this is the UNCA's Black Lives Matter mural, which is beautiful. I'm always surprised at how our students come through. Jasmine, you want to talk a little bit about what you experienced or saw from the students here working on the Black Lives Matter mural at UNCA?
Yeah, so I wasn't necessarily involved with the initial like planning process and everything. But I did go down there to partially paint a couple of the letters, specifically the R over on the end. I helped block that off and then start it. But what was really interesting about the painting of this mural is there were assigned artists for some of the letters and the words overall, but a lot of it was people coming and going, painting a little bit, leaving, coming back, someone else coming in, finishing it. So it was this really big collaborative effort that I just thought was incredible, because there was no central like, oh, this person did this person did that. It was very, very loose, but in a good way. And that, I think that's part of why it came out the way it did. And like, because you can see like no one word or letter exactly matches up. But I think that perfectly represents UNCA. They all say the same, they all convey the same message. They fit together, but they don't look exactly the same.
Yes, I love that. So I just wanted to take a minute for those of you who hadn't had an opportunity to see this amazing work, for you to see this work, or just to be reminded. I remember riding through the streets, just taking pictures, just amazed at all of the art and feeling a sense of pride, and also feeling, seen as a Black person in this city. So it was a very important time. I want to open it up to our audience. We have about 30 community members here who have their own questions to ask. And so I'm going to ask a couple of their questions, if you don't mind. The first question I want to ask is from Jenna. First of all, she wanted to make the comment that she thinks what you've done is powerful, important, and necessary, and just wanted to say thank you. And she's curious, is there any way to make the Black Lives Matter mural on the square permanent? Or can we have it anywhere, somewhere in Asheville permanent? Is that something we could do?
I think I'm going to defer to Dustin on that, because I think I heard anyway that, Dustin, you were talking about bringing a group of artists together to maintain the mural. Did I hear that correctly?
I had mentioned that a long time ago, just because, painting on the ground where people walk or drive, it's going to get destroyed. That's all there is to it. I'm personally one of the many reasons why before we ever did this, I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea. Just because from my perspective, I'm like, well, why are we painting the ground? Why aren't we painting a wall? I'm a wall painter, I'm like, people don't walk on walls. They still get rained on and all this other stuff, and the sun hits them and walls still fall apart. But anything that's on a road is going to degrade so much faster than anything on a wall, I would imagine. So, I think something like this should be permanent, and I think it should probably be on the side of a building, not on the road, just because things on the road fall apart.
Yeah, we were here, the Arts Council had put together like a talk. We were learning a lot about temporary art installations. So for me, it was my first time as a non-artist, like in that way, understanding temporary art installations. And so immediately when I saw that it would be, done on the street, I knew it was a temporary art installation. I think the critical part here is understanding that the future of the mural is going to be discussed as a part of the revisioning of Pack Plaza, and that the Arts Council only had a year contract with the mural. And so one of the things about art that we have to be mindful of is when Dustin or Joseph or Jenny or Jasmine create something, that there is maintenance, right? And there is somebody who has to take responsibility and the cost to kind of sort of deal with those things. So I'm really hoping that when we start to re-envision the Pack Plaza, that we can get something started there. And I do know the city is hiring somebody to be the project manager over that. So that's exciting. So Tara Brown says, thank you for all your beautiful and powerful works with us and Aisha facilitating. I may have missed this, but were the murals done on storefronts one big coordinated effort or through individual connections with businesses and individual artists? What I discovered, Tara, during this time was, like Dustin said, some people got supplies donated to them through plywood and things like that. But then Joseph mentioned that he actually was commissioned from BPR. So it looks like it was both and. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So the Arts Council worked with artists like Dustin to distribute plywood and paint to make sure that we had up the storefront. No, it was just you, Dustin? How did that work?
No, Sarah from Honey Pot got in touch with Lowe's, and I believe it was, I think it was the East Asheville Lowe's location matched her donation to them for plywood and convinced them to literally just drop off stacks of plywood, of chip plywood, like chipboard downtown. And then multiple people simply showed up and started letting each other know that there was free plywood available to board up storefronts in downtown. Like completely community driven, DIY, word of mouth effort. And from that, that's when I want to say it was probably Gus and Catherine Crawford, who were like, yo, we should paint all of this stuff so that it just doesn't look like an abandoned downtown like it did in the 80s, right? Like, and I'm not going to say that they or we were the only people who had that thought, but as like my friends, like my friend group, you know, of painters were like, yeah, we should get together and go paint everything. So it was very much just, it wasn't sponsored by anyone or, you know, it was just artists getting together and being like, we can do something good right now just to help, you know, our home and our community.
Be an activist.
That was great. I mean, just
normal life stuff, right? Just what can we do together to help?
Right. And it was a time that people needed to feel useful and people needed to be inspired. And then Joseph, how did your commission with BPR come about?
I got a call from Mr. David Feingold. He wanted to show solidarity in what was going on and asked me if I was interested in doing something. And as the conversation went back and forth and I realized the time frame, I started trying to back out of it. I mean, like a day and a half or 2 days, hey, I don't think this is going to happen. But then he said, well, you know, give it your best shot, do what you can do. And asked me what I needed. And I told him what we needed. So they boarded up the walls. I had the walls already boarded up. I went in, I think like a Friday afternoon, primed the wall, came back Saturday morning. Usually I take time to put a drawing down. I didn't have time to do all of that. So I had to put an idea down and paint it, you know, as it came to me. And I spent all of Saturday doing that, half of Sunday to get the work up.
Yeah. So then we had all these beautiful murals and they were huge, right? Like super huge. And it was time to take them down. And that's when the Arts Council said, okay, we'll put them up in storage. And then we worked it out so that we could display them during MLK week via video. So if you haven't had an opportunity to see that video, I'll ask that Katie drop that video in the chat, which is a great example of the murals. And like you get to see all of them and they're so beautiful. It's definitely worth the watch. The other question that we had for you all, let's see, we answered this one. This one is from Jason Stanford. It says, thank you all for your art and for this discussion. This week of the protest murals on storefronts in Asheville is so disconcerting. These beautiful images were painted by day, and then I was watching sometimes violent protests in our streets. My question is, what type of art would you like to see take over the space that used to be the home of the Vance Monument?
Oh. That requires some, I think it requires a lot of conversations from the community to start. Because whatever goes there, I think it has to be representative of the community at large. Otherwise, I think it would just generate perhaps not as much dissension, but dissension. So the first thing that comes to my mind is community conversation, community input, to see what folks are thinking and what folks think they might want to see. That, because you're not going to get everybody to agree with anything, but at least get a consensus that folks can feel, most folks can feel comfortable with.
And if I may speak on that, I would love to see, and it's just one person in particular, so it's as many, maybe something reflecting of James Vester Miller, who was responsible for a lot of those buildings that are downtown now. I don't see but a small plaque about him, but it'd be good to have some future, like some community leaders we had once before, that kind of made Asheville what it is in a positive way. I think that would be good, something to think about. Like you say, it's part of a discussion that need to be done.
Yeah. Okay, so a last question from the community. Oh, wait. Lots of questions. So we want to talk about your design process for these works, and this is coming from Brian Alexander. We want to talk about your design process for both the big pavement pieces and the more urgent works of plywood, and just find out, like, did these things, like, what was your process like? And if, as you talk about your process, it'd be interesting to hear more about your healing. I know Joseph has mentioned plenty of times that he's worked out his frustrations. And Jenny, want to start with you talking about the importance of bringing in family, especially your son, a Black boy, you know, in the middle of all of this. Like, talk a little bit about your design process and your healing process.
Okay, my design was mostly, I wanted to reflect on the history of being Black, like starting from Africa and then the time, what we're going through now, dealing with, and how we wanted to see our future going. So that's what my design was made, was generated mostly of. And like you say, having my son there, which is going to be something powerful he needed to heal. He needed to see as far as our healing, and because we were going through a whole lot. And sometimes you don't get to have these discussions at home with your family because it's just like, it can go either way. So, but having that, just being able to do the art and something in a positive way.
Yeah, what about you, Jasmine?
I actually didn't hear the question super clearly. My connection cut out a little bit. Could you please repeat it?
Yeah, like, I know you are primarily an animator. So as you were moving to these different mediums of pieces, like during the street pieces and doing the plywood pieces, what was your process like? And, you know, how did it affect your healing?
So that was actually the first time I had ever painted a mural or anything of that scale. So it was very physical, to say the least, just because normally I work on a piece of paper that's maybe this big, but this is the first time I had worked on something where I had to use a giant roller to roll out the paint and everything. And when I had already had my idea down, which was sorry, the name is escaping me, but the man from the around 1960s Olympics on the pedestal with the Black Power fist. Yeah. So I had that vision pretty clear in my head, but that process was a lot different. I couldn't really like sculpt out what I wanted on paper. I had to put everything in as layers and simplify it because I didn't want to go too far and then, end up messing a line or something up. But I was really satisfied with how it came out, and I was really happy to be able to even work on that.
For those of us who can't even color like one picture in a coloring book, it is the most amazing sight to see. So Joseph and Dustin, I want to ask you a separate question. What do you think is important for people to take away from these events, like all this stuff that's happening? And I actually want to hear from all of you. We'll start with Joseph, and then we'll go to Dustin, and then Jenny and Jasmine.
Okay, hold up. I have a note.
You wrote it down?
Well, I have a thought. Well, that basically kind of goes back to what I was saying about 30-second sound bites. I want folks to be able to come to the work, spend some time with it. Because it's public art. You don't have closing times. You don't have schedules to be on. Folks can come, hang out with the work, reflect on it, and share whatever their feelings are about the work. And because, especially with the nature of the whole project, and my word in particular, there was a stories being told in that, and Jasmine alluded to part of it. In the L in the Black, there's, I don't know whether it was Tommy Smith or John Carlos raising the clenched fist during the 1968 Olympics in protest of police violence, the same thing that we were out there doing this about. So I want folks to, because we're telling stories, I want folks to reflect on the stories. What's been learned? What can we do to help avoid repeating, what's going on?
Yeah, Dustin.
I'm sorry. Will you repeat that question, please?
Thank you. Of course. What do you want people to take away or remember from these events, this art, this work that you all have been doing?
I think for myself, I don't know if I necessarily have the intent to make people remember or take anything away. I've spent a lot of time making images with the intent of trying to affect viewers. And I think that ultimately, any good image does that. It affects people. And I also think that it's pretty difficult to sculpt what somebody gets out of what you give them. I'm not an expert in that. And some people are very, very good at it. I would prefer to make the world better. I would like for people to be happy and for everyone to be okay. I would like for things to be fair, and I'd like to inspire people to try to change things for the better. And kind of like going back to some of the other things that have been asked, like I'd love to see a free wall in that spot where people were allowed to go paint. But maybe more importantly than that, I'd love for there to be more housing in Asheville and more jobs for people here. I would love to see the racial disparity in this town and this country actually addressed, and to look at like the root systematic causes of like why we are where we are right now. I'd love for there to be more nonprofits that do good jobs. Like I work with Open Doors sometimes, and I think that they're a wonderful example of a grassroots nonprofit that's really trying hard to help people in our community by creating safety nets for individuals so that they will get through high school and into college and not become trapped in a bureaucratic mess where people fall through the cracks. I'd love for people to realize that it's up to them to be good leaders, to set good examples for other people, to be compassionate, and also to be strong in their beliefs and what they think is right and wrong. And being strong in our own beliefs does not mean that we need to be rude or intimidating or to belittle other people. name call or to resort to violence. You know, I think that by setting a good example, it's possible to have other people realize they can do the same thing and take the importance of each of our lives seriously, and to understand that all of us come together to create the situations that we are in, and that we are all responsible for ourselves first and our own actions, you know, and that by being able to take care of ourselves, we then have the ability to help others. And also, you know, we are caught up in the future's culture wars right now. Like, this is it. Here we are. Information is being disseminated at a rate that no one can keep up with, and ideas are just constantly being used against one another for people to make money. You know, that's power, and money is what all of this is always coming down to for people. And so we sit here and have a normal conversation. Somebody else out there is sculpting a conversation that is in response to these kinds of ideas, not because they even believe the opposite of what we're saying, because they know that they can find a way to monetize it and make money and gain power for themselves. And in a lot of ways, I think that's what we're up against, is a constant power grab by people alive on our planet. And they're just like us, you know, they're just in different positions. You know, so that's, I think that I would like people to come away from this just being like, it's possible to affect change, and that it's each of our personal responsibilities to choose to do so, and how we choose to do it is up to us also.
Amen, Reverend Spag.
I think the example you gave of just how this project came about is a good example of taking care of yourself and taking care of others and being kind, and, you know, worrying about your community at large. So good on you for modeling that in your process and then calling it out here at the same time. Good on you for that. That's good. So we have about 12 minutes left in our short conversation here. And I am dying to know, I am, what's going on with you all? Where can we find you now? Since you're not on the side of the road painting street murals, and you're not creating these boarded up places for those of us who want to find more of your art, who want to get deeper into this conversation with you, how can we find you and connect with you? And we'll start with Jasmine.
So you can find me on Instagram. I try to keep up with social media. It's not my main thing, but I do try to post as often as I can. You can find me on Instagram at JASIMAN art. Again, JASIMAN art on Instagram.
I'm gonna give everybody an opportunity to pull up their Instagram and type in Jasmine Art, JASMINART.
No. Sorry, it's a JASIMAN. It's JASIMAN art.
Okay, got it. JASIMANART. And I'm gonna put that in the chat for y'all because I want to make, oh, look, there it is. Thanks, Katie. All right, next, I want to, the next person I want to hear from would be Jenny. How do we follow you and find out what you're working on?
All right. You can find me on Instagram as well as on Jenny Pickens 616. Also, Facebook is Jenny Pickens Self-Taught Artist. I'm also, you can find some of my art on Fine Art America. You can find it at Noir Collective AVL, which is 39 South Market Street, Suite C. I am currently I finished up the mural project. Can't really say too much about it because it's not up yet, but it'll be downtown, corner of Eagle and Market Street. And also we have a pop-up shop going on at the Outlet Mall with Noir Collective every Saturday.
Wow, thanks for that. So we have the Noir Collective website in the chat now, and we now know how to get in touch with Jenny. What about you, Joseph? How can we stay in touch with you?
You can visit josephart.net, my website. You can visit Joseph Pearson Artist on Instagram, and I'll be posting something soon. And currently I have an exhibition up at the Asheville School called Women of Distinction. And it's all about, I use local women, professional women, and it's all about empowering young girls and women to aspire to reach their potentials by seeing living, accessible examples.
Awesome. So before I go, I had one last question that I didn't get in from community that I think is a super important question. And that is, okay, so we saw you all working together. We saw the beauty of the art you were creating. Are there any collaboratives or, oh, Dustin, we didn't get your contact information.
Oh yeah, mine's just my name. It's just Dustin Spagnola, and all the things. Instagram, Facebook, my website, like literally everything is just Dustin Spagnola. And in general, I'm just painting. Like I said, I've been learning how to tattoo recently. I have a separate Instagram account for that if anybody wants to look at it or book time with me. Likewise, I have multiple murals in the work. I'm about to be in Florida doing some guest spots for tattooing and for murals. I should be in Colorado later this year. Which it'll be the first time that I'm out there. And in general, yeah, every day I'm just trying to draw or paint or tattoo or make prints or whatever I'm doing. This is that stuff. Can you read it? It's backwards probably. Yeah. Oh, well.
It's good. It's good. And you have it. It's right here in the corner of your screen.
There you go. Yeah. It's always just Dustin Spagnola on every platform you can find that I know about.
That is exciting. Thank you, Dustin. I took a moment to follow each and every one of you. And some of y'all I've known and I wasn't following. So I charge it to my head and not to my heart because I'm officially following today. And I want to encourage all of our attendees to also follow our artists. The final question that I have for you, we have 7 minutes. So I'm hoping I can squeeze two in. One question is, are there any collaborations that we should know about or anything that came from your work together as a community to add more collaboration? And that question came from Brian.
Nope.
Yeah, it seems like you all are already pretty collaborative and in community together, right?
I thought it was really great to get to work on the street mural with other people. Like I said, it was one of the more community-oriented events that I've ever done as far as like painting goes outside. Like, so that was great.
Awesome. So my final question for you all is, what do you have to say to our future artists that are hanging in on the line who want to know, what inspires you to keep going, to keep painting, to keep protesting? Just as a final thought for our young artists. And I'll start with Jasmine.
I think it's important to acknowledge that this is just one aspect of activism. As much as I do love doing art, it's just one part of a whole of other aspects of activism. We still have to call our representatives, we still have to protest, we still have to hold our dollar for the things that really matter, and to not get overwhelmed with trying to make the most important statement with a single piece of art. There will always be more art in the world, and there will always be more art for you to create. So just keeping in mind that like you can't do everything with one piece of art. You can send a message, but you can't send all of the messages. And really, we need just more people speaking up in every aspect.
I can really appreciate that answer. What do you think, Jenny?
I always encourage artists to never give up, always stay focused on your art even if you have a regular job, continue to do some type of art each day. Put the time in for that. And like Jasmine was saying, art is just one part of what you need to be doing. And there's so many parts of it. And we need all the art we can get to bring the love in the world and the peace.
Dustin?
I think personally what I always try to tell everybody who wants to make art is I think that developing a daily practice is the most important thing that you can do. Don't wait for inspiration, like to make the decision that it's what you want to do with your time. And if that means 10 minutes, 3 times a week, or if that means 6 hours, 6 days a week, like make your decision. And even if you don't meet your weekly or monthly or daily goal, by continuing to stick through it over the years and over the decades, you will make more work and you will learn how to get better at what you're doing.
I love that, Dustin. I had a mentor tell me once, Aisha, how you spend your minutes is how you spend your days.
That's right.
So you think about that 10 minutes and you're like, oh, it's 10 minutes is nothing. And you don't do it, but 10 minutes a week is 70 minutes a week. That's a lot of time to devote to something. So I think that's some really powerful advice as well. Joseph, is there any final words that you have for artists who want to be on this path, who want to be doing good protest art? What advice do you have for them?
First off, I echo everything that everybody said about the daily practice. You have to put in the work. Secondly, I think it's important to have something to say. Having something to say is a motivator in itself. And thirdly, it's important to respect the creative process as part of who we are as human beings. It doesn't matter whether you're making art, whether you're gardening, whatever it is, respect that process and it will enhance your life and the rest of ours as well.
Well, Brian says, thank you to all of you for answering his question and or their question. And I want to say thank you for being here. I know that we are pulling you from your daily practice of doing your art, having you on here to speak to community, and we appreciate each and every one of you. We want to give you your flowers now. You all have done an amazing job of inspiring our city in one of the most uninspiring times, right? You all really have done a wonderful job of continuing to beautify Asheville and to continue challenging us to think about the images and the work that you're doing, and you continuously keep us on our toes, and we are appreciative of you for that.